Hello, I've got a different background again because we're moving again, and I have a new microphone, which is a very old microphone, the Electro-Voice 664, which was introduced in 1954. I don't know how old this particular microphone is, but this microphone as a model came out in 1954. So it could be in 1954, it could be in 1956, I don't know. There was a change in the switch plate design at some point that looks a bit more modern. It looks kind of 60s, but this one has what looks like the older one. So I'm guessing it is from the 50s. This microphone is a precursor to the variable D technology. This one has some different ports to it. You can see the vents on the sides and this cool fin. So this is functional, and all of these things do different things to help shape the sound and make it more directional. The ports on the side, there's a hole right here on the top, and there's a hole back here in the fin. And if I cover up this hole, you can see that hear that the audio gets a bit different. It's you lose some of the low end when you do that, but then when I open it back up again, you can definitely hear that difference. So they marketed this as being able to hold it in your hand or put it on a stand. So it's got this where you can kind of grab onto it. But if somebody wasn't paying attention, they could easily cover this up and it would change the audio pretty drastically, in my opinion. Maybe it's not that noticeable, but I can hear it in my ears. So I wouldn't handhold this, but you totally can. And it uses the old 4-pin Amphenol screw-on connector, which is pretty hard to find these days, nearly worth their weight in gold. I paid $37 all in with shipping and tax and all of that for a new old stock connector for this thing, and I just soldered it up to an XLR, so it's probably going to have a permanently attached pigtail on it. And I think this microphone sounds fantastic for being as old as it is and for being what it is. I was not shopping for this microphone. I wasn't going out looking for them. I would look for them every so often if I just randomly thought about it, because I had one in my possession years and years ago. It was a friend's, and I don't know why I had it. I think I was going to make a cable for it so we could hear it, but I never did, and I just gave it back to him. But I always thought it was a really cool design. You don't see it a whole lot. It does show up in movies and TV shows that are set in the olden times every now and then. But usually you see this guy, the Shure 55, the Unidyne variants that they had. And so this was an answer to this. So this was really popular, and Shure was making it. So EV came out with this one, and as kind of a competitor to the 55 and the Elvis mic kind of things that Shure was making. So this one's the 664 that came out in 1954. Then we also have the Shure 666, which was actually the first one to use the variable D technology. And then after that, you've got the RE15, RE10, RE16, and then we get to the RE20. So this is kind of a distant cousin of the RE20, or maybe a great uncle. I don't know. You know what I mean? So this one doesn't really use the variable D technology, but it's kind of in that same vein, in a way. And there's nothing done to this audio. Let's talk about that. I am running it through a Golden Age project, pre-73 Junior, because I thought it would be nice to have a full kind of old school signal chain with a big transformer. I know those pre-73s aren't like top of the line preamps, but I would bet that it's pretty on par, maybe even better than what they had in the 50s. I don't know. I mean, recording technology is really, in my opinion, probably not changed a whole lot, judging by this microphone and how good it sounds. So maybe preamps sounded really good back then as well. So I think it's pretty good. I don't know if there'd be much of a difference if I just plugged it into my interface, but just for fun, I wanted to give it that whole, no integrated circuits and give it that full analog, which integrated circuits are still analog, but you know what I mean, full discrete signal chain through the whole thing, kind of like how it would be when it was being used. And this was made for live applications, like you put it in front of someone speaking at some kind of event where it's going through speakers. And so they didn't have as much processing as we do today. Back then, obviously, no one's got a waves grid plugged into in 1954. So the microphone had to sound good, as it was, since maybe they didn't even have an EQ at all. So the sound that you hear and the way it's shaped comes from the microphone and from the speakers and from the amplifier and from the preamp that you use. Or maybe you don't even use a preamp. Maybe you're just sticking this thing directly into an amplifier, and there you go. So the mic had to sound good. And I was so surprised at how good this mic sounded when I first plugged it in, because I'd heard some other samples of it, and it kind of didn't sound super good. And I've also read different reviews in different forums that said it doesn't sound good, or it straight up sounds bad. So maybe they just didn't have one that was in good shape. There could have been something wrong with it. But yeah, I got on a tangent. I said I wasn't shopping for this microphone. It just popped up on Reverb. It was $40, and they were selling it for $40 because it was untested, because they didn't have a cable for it. So I'm like, $40, that's not too bad. I'll take a risk on that. And I get it in, make a cable, and what do you know? It works just fine. I shook it a bit, and I heard something rattling around inside of it. And I didn't put two and two together as to what that was. I'm like, oh, okay, it's an old microphone. Something's rattling in it. That's not super weird. Mic works, whatever. But then I noticed that the plosives were pretty bad on it. They're not right now. I haven't talked about this yet. I will. But the plosives are really bad on it. So and I know there's foam inside the grill here, so I undid the little knurled nut that holds the grill on, and saw that there was just some disintegrating old deteriorated pieces of foam in there, and they were like a very fine, I don't know, like a meringue. I don't know, like it was just dust when it was a chunk, but then if you like touched it at all, it was all gone. So all the foam had deteriorated. So I cut up a pop filter that I had. It's one of those cheap ones where it looks kind of like a crescent, and you'd put it over top of a side address condenser microphone. So it's got a mesh, and then it's got a thinner piece of foam on that too. So I kind of separated it and cut it into a circle, put the foam in there. I even put that metal mesh in there too to try to improve it, but it didn't do a whole lot. So what I'll do is pull off this thing in a second. This is the Isopop broadcast from Isovox. Pretty expensive little thing. These are like $100, but I didn't pay $100 for it. I would never in a million years pay $100 for a pop filter. That's just crazy to me. But I paid, I don't want to say what I paid, but I paid more than I wanted to pay for a pop filter, but I get a lot of value out of it because I've got a few different end address condenser microphones that this can be used with. I put it on my Sennheiser 421. That's where it lives. I can put it on my RE20 if I want. I can put it on a handheld like the Shure Beta 57A that I have, and it can be used on a lot of different microphones. So it gets used. So I'm going to take it off though, and I'll mute while I do this. Although that wasn't really that bad. And so the sound isn't going to change a whole lot with that off of it, but you can definitely hear that if I'm not doing a good job of kind of not blowing into the microphone, like right now I'm kind of doing it on purpose to illustrate how bad it is. And this is even with new foam inside of it. So I don't know. I think the element though, the diaphragm is like right there, like a 1/4 inch back from the end of the grill. So if I get really close up on it and you get all those wind noises and breath sounds and all that. but maybe you're really supposed to be back here. I don't know. Like if you're on a lectern or something and you're supposed to be like back here addressing a crowd, and maybe it wasn't a problem. Maybe I'm too close to it. So, but anyway, overall, I think that for a microphone this old, it sounds incredible. And I don't know. I mean, I was just blown away. I like the low end that it has, but then it's detailed too. It's got a lot of mids though. So like the low mids are there and it doesn't have a whole lot of pronounced high end, but it is still crisp. Like you get those higher frequencies still, even though they're not super pronounced, and you get more of the bottom end, but I don't think it's bad at all. And I'm in an totally untreated room. Obviously, it's even worse than it was before. So tough situation, and maybe it doesn't sound super great in this room, but I think it's a great sounding microphone. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Just something cool to have, cool design, cool conversation piece, and it works. So it might be fun to just pull it out and try it on different things here and there. But there you go. There is the Electro-Voice 664